What's up guys, my name is Cam and this is my first movie review. Woo! Now before I get started, there are a couple of things I want to say. First of all, I don't consider myself some kind of movie aficionado who thinks, that I know exactly how a movie is supposed to be made, what makes a good movie, what doesn't make a good movie, etc., etc. What I'll be covering is purely my own opinion, and you have every right to disagree. If I say that a movie is good and you don't agree with me, that's fine. I'm not saying that my opinion is the right one. And also, the way that this is going to be set up, I'm going to be giving you the movie. I'll give you the plot of the movie, who it's directed by, the actors, run through what I like and don't like about it, and then at the end, I will give you a spoiler alert because I will be going over my top 5 favorite scenes out of that movie. Let's go. John Wick is directed by Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, who are both veteran stuntmen, and stars Keanu Reeves, Michael Nyqvist, I'm pretty sure, Alfie Allen, John Leguizamo. Really good casting for this movie. And it's an action movie about an ex-hitman who is forced to come out of retirement to hunt down those who took everything from him. Now, I'm sure after I say that, you're thinking to yourself, another movie about an ex-hitman coming out of retirement? We've seen this a million times. It's a recycled plot line that happens over and over again every year. And you'd be right, it is one that we do see more often than not. But this is done right. Now the first thing I want to talk about in this movie is the cast. Keanu Reeves gives probably one of his best performances of his entire career. I'd say this is probably his best since The Matrix. He plays a very stoic, very quiet, at the same time very well-mannered ex-hitman who feels that he doesn't really have a lot left to live for after the death of his wife, until some thugs come along and basically take everything from him. Now, if you've seen the trailer, then you know the reasoning behind why he's going on this bloody rampage, killing all these people. If you haven't, I'm not going to spoil it for you. But when I first saw the trailers for this movie, I was kind of thinking that's really the reason that they're going for this guy to go out and kill all these people. But it really works in the movie. It really does. The first act of this movie is built up to help you feel for this character, to feel for this ex-hitman who doesn't really have much left in his life. And then at the end of that first act, whenever he does start going off and killing people, you're behind him 100%. You're thinking, okay, this works, I understand this guy, I feel for this guy, I want to see him kick some ass. Which brings me to one of my favorite things about this movie, which is the action. It is a very well shot action movie. Great long takes where you can see Keanu Reeves doing all of these stunts. Great wide shots where you can see everything happening. None of that really fast, quick editing that makes the entire action scene blur by and just a headache of motion that's supposed to subliminally tell you, hey, these two people are fighting. These two people might be hitting each other. So here's a bunch of different shots of a guy throwing a punch, and we're going to do that in about 7 or 8 shots. No, that's not what you see here. You see everything play out nicely. You see Keanu Reeves killing these people. And usually through some kind of, a headshot. Punch, punch, headshot, punch, punch, headshot. This is also a really well-acted movie. Like I said, Keanu Reeves gives a great performance. He can be angry, he can be sad, he can express despair. Everything that this character is required to feel, Keanu Reeves portrays it excellently. Michael Nyqvist, as the villain of this movie, oh my god. Not only does he give a great performance as the antagonist of this movie, he also ends up being a pretty likable antagonist. He's funny, he can be a smartass. In a lot of ways, he is completely the opposite of Keanu Reeves' character. At the same time, though, you kind of look at these people and think that they're one and the same. And once the action of this movie gets started, it is relentless. You jump from big shootout to big shootout to big shootout. And this movie does not give you any time to breathe. It does stop in a few places to develop its characters and to establish what's going to happen next, but every single action scene will have you on the edge of your seat, white-knuckling it because you just want to see Keanu Reeves destroy these people. Which also at the same time kind of brings me to one of the flaws I have with this movie, because it's not a flawless movie. At times, the movie does tend to drag on because of all the action that it has. About halfway through the third act of the movie, you're kind of sitting there waiting for the movie to end because it feels like it's gone on for a little bit longer than it should have. And in some ways it kind of does, because the movie clocks itself at a little over 2 hours. So there's a lot that they're trying to show here. But another thing that the movie does well is establish this criminal underworld. The dialogue that's present in this movie does a very good job of showing us how this little syndicate kind of works. They have a system of gold coin exchanges. They have a certain safe house where they kind of go to where they don't have to worry about anybody coming after them. And it's kind of hard to come across a movie with this much action that has such great dialogue sequences. These characters talk to each other and you kind of have to listen to it. You find yourself becoming engrossed in the stories that they're telling, in the things that they're telling each other, the warnings they give each other. And overall, I just had a great freaking time with this movie. I actually had to go out and buy it on Blu-ray. I loved it so much. So guys, all in all, John Wick is a very, very solid action movie. A very well-shot action movie. A very well-acted action movie. It does tend to drag on a little bit, and the literal last scene of the movie feels like a little bit too convenient, but it still works in the context of the movie. It still makes you feel like this character has some closure. So guys, my ending verdict is I'm going to give Keanu Reeves a 9 out of 10. That's right, a 9 out of 10. Despite the fact that the action kind of drags on from time to time, it is still a very engrossing movie. So guys, spoiler alert, I'll be talking about my top 5 favorite scenes out of this movie. Topping off the list with number 5, we have the opening sequence. The first shot is opening up in a parking lot, and you see an SUV kind of crawl along until it hits a wall, and Keanu Reeves just falls out of it, beaten up, bloody, shot up, stabbed, and he kind of struggles away, pulls out his phone, and watches a video of his wife, and he lays down and closes his eyes, and you think he's dying, and then the next 20 minutes of the movie is establishing, okay, he had a wife. His wife died, and she sent him this dog, and he becomes very attached to this dog. The entire first act of the movie is establishing the character of John Wick, and it does it very well because you end up caring about him very much. You end up feeling for him, and whenever the shit starts to go down, that's makes the entire movie turn around. You really want him to go out and kill these people. You want him to get justice. You want these people to get shot. Moving right along with number 4, back at the Continental. Now the Continental is a hotel where all these hitmen and assassins sort of congregate. And they have a rule that says no business can be conducted on Continental grounds, which means nobody can hunt them there, they can't kill anybody there, they're there to be safe. And the dialogue that's exchanged between Keanu Reeves and the secretary of this hotel is just, it's brilliant and it's also funny because it really establishes his status in this underworld, how well respected he is, how well known he is. Honestly, the secretary is just one of my favorite characters in the movie. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but what he does is just hilarious. Number 3. Baba Yaga. Now, as explained in the movie, Baba Yaga is Russian for boogeyman, which is apparently what John Wick is, except he's the one you sent to kill the boogeyman, as described by Michael Nickfist. He starts to tell a story of John Wick, how brutal he is, how efficient he is, and he starts to describe just the fact that he is a killer. He is a hitman that you do not want to fuck with. There's a sequence in there that's very well incorporated into this story where John Wick is in his basement beating the floor of the basement with a sledgehammer, and he pulls up a box that's full of all of his old hitman equipment. And while he's doing this, Michael Nickfist is telling the story of Baba Yaga, and it really, really changes the mood of the movie. You see John Wick not so much as the guy who had everything taken from him anymore. Your perspective kind of changes to, this is the guy who's going to come out and kill you, no matter what. As described by Michael Nickfist, John Wick is a man of commitment, sheer will, which means he's going to come kill you no matter what. You can run all you want, you can hide all you want, he is going to find you. Coming in at number 2, the home invasion scene. Michael Nickfist gets one of his lackeys to get a crew together to go out to John Wick's house and kill him. But it doesn't work. These people enter his house, John Wick is already prepared, and he just slaughters them. The action is so fast and so well shot, and you're just flabbergasted by the stunts that Keanu Reeves is pulling off in this scene. And Keanu Reeves has stated that he studied jiu-jitsu very, very much in preparation for this role, and it shows. It shows very well. These guys are running around, they're getting shot in the head, they're getting stabbed, they're getting broken in every way possible. And then as he kills the last man, somebody rings his doorbell and he goes, and it's a police officer. Instead of coming in and demanding what all the commotion was about, the police officer instead sees a body and says, "No, okay, I'll go ahead and leave you alone then." And that further establishes John Wick's character, because it shows that he's not just some hitman. He is a hitman who is well known across the entire community. Not even police officers want to screw with this guy. They know who he is. They don't want to get on his bad side. So what better way to not get on someone's bad side than to leave him alone, right? And finally, my #1 favorite scene in this entire movie is the nightclub scene. Now this is probably the best nightclub shootout scene that I have ever seen in my life. The drastic transition from one piece of music to the other, the great use of some slow motion, Keanu Reeves doing all these ridiculous stunts, everything is just flawless. I have not seen a better shootout sequence in a very long time. John Wick is honestly probably the best action movie of 2014, partly because of that scene. And every once in a while I go onto YouTube and I look at that scene and I just watch it and sit back and go, ha, that is awesome. So guys, obviously I would recommend seeing John Wick if you're a fan of action movies, if you're a fan of underworld crime movies, or if you're a fan of Keanu Reeves in general, check out John Wick. These filmmakers really, really deserve your support, especially since they've announced that they're making a John Wick 2. I can only imagine how that's going to be. I mean, if the first John Wick is this good, I really hope that the sequel turns out just as good, if not better. So guys, have you seen John Wick? What did you think of it? Go ahead and comment below. I would love to hear your opinions, and I will see you in the next review.